Isabella woke slowly, the silence of her home pressing in on her as though holding her in place. A gentle warmth enveloped her, but it didn't bring comfort, it brought urgency. The voice that had been her one link to the world felt closer than ever, insistent and tender, reaching to the depths of her consciousness. Isabelle. You must remember, it urged softly, and this time she felt its truth in every word. Isabelle closed her eyes, allowing herself to drift into the half-forgotten memories she had been avoiding. The images were hazy at first, vague impressions of that night. Then they sharpened the gleam of headlights too close, her own grip tightening around the steering wheel, and the impact. A searing pain rushed through her, blurring into darkness, and then a sudden, weightless emptiness. It hit her fully now. She hadn't survived the accident. She was not suspended in some strange, temporary limbo. She had died. The voice, her guide through the mists of memory, had been there to ease her toward this truth. Am I really gone? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Yes, the voice responded, its tone filled with warmth and sorrow. Isabelle was quiet, her spirit trembling with this realization. She thought of her sister Margaret, her best friend Lily, and all the loved ones she had been yearning to reach. She understood now that her family had been caught in the weight of her loss, torn between moving forward and holding on to the hope that some part of her might still linger. The ache in her chest grew, and tears came, spilling as she let go of the illusion she had clung to. For months she had been holding on to what remained of her life, but only by letting go could she finally bring peace to herself and to those she loved. With this truth came a strange sense of peace, as though the missing pieces of her existence were finally falling into place. She returned to her home, moving from room to room, touching the objects she had loved, the familiar spaces she had inhabited. The worn pages of her books, the faded cushions of the couch, the pictures lining her walls, all bore witness to the moments that had been hers. Standing in front of the family photos on the mantel, Isabelle touched each face with reverence, feeling the love woven into each memory. Her parents' broad smiles, her sister's familiar laugh, even her own hesitant smile captured in a candid shot. Her faded reflection in these photographs now felt less like a loss and more like a gift, a final reminder of a life well loved and well lived. And then, tucked into the frame of her favorite photo, a picnic by the lake, she noticed a card, a delicate piece of paper that hadn't been there before. She picked it up, reading the simple words, "We love you, Isabelle, always." The realization washed over her that her family had visited her house, placed their goodbyes in each corner, hoping she would somehow feel them. And in this moment she did. She was filled with a profound gratitude for each of them, and her heart swelled with love and acceptance. The next morning, Isabelle felt an inexplicable pull toward the hospital, a place she hadn't visited in this ghostly state, dreading what she might find there. The rooms blurred as she moved, until finally she found herself standing by the bed where her body lay, fragile and unchanging, kept alive by the gentle hum of machines. The stillness of her physical form took her breath away, a jarring reminder that the life she knew was gone. Margaret, her sister, sat by the bedside, her head bowed, a book open on her lap. Isabelle moved closer, noticing that it was her favorite novel, the one she'd reread countless times, each page now soft from her touch. Margaret's fingers traced a line of text before she closed the book and placed it on Isabelle's bedside table. "I miss you, Izzy," Margaret whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. Her voice cracked as she continued, "I don't know how to say goodbye. I can't believe you're really gone." Isabelle's heart ached as she watched her sister, realizing how much her family had been struggling with her loss. Her spirit surged, and she reached out, determined to make her presence known, to give Margaret one last moment of comfort. "Margaret," she whispered, focusing all her energy on that one connection, hoping beyond hope that she could reach her. Her hand moved toward her sister, and for a moment Margaret stilled, her head lifting as though she could feel Isabelle's presence in the room. In a voice as soft as a breath, Isabelle managed to say, "I love you, Margaret. You'll be okay. I promise." Margaret's eyes widened, and for a fleeting moment, her face softened with peace. She wiped her tears, a small, bittersweet smile crossing her lips, as if she'd sensed something beyond explanation. Isabelle stepped back, the weight of the goodbye settling into her spirit. She realized now that this was her chance to let go, to release her family from the lingering pain of her passing. Isabelle drifted out of the hospital, finding herself back in her childhood home, standing by the familiar window in the living room. It was dusk, and the sky was painted in hues of pink and gold, casting a gentle glow over her surroundings. She watched as the colors deepened, and in that fading light, she felt her final connection to the world loosen. In the quiet, she sensed the voice once more, warm and reassuring, like an embrace. "You're ready," it whispered, the words filled with a tender certainty. Isabelle turned to face the source of the voice, and there, in a soft, welcoming glow, she saw familiar faces: her grandparents, friends who had passed, a whole collection of loved ones waiting with open arms. She took a step forward, and the weight she had been carrying seemed to lift, leaving her spirit light and free. She looked back one last time, her heart full of love and gratitude for the life she had lived. Her family would go on, carrying her memory, and she knew now that her love would linger, a gentle warmth that would forever touch the lives she had left behind. With a final smile, she stepped toward the light, her spirit moving forward into the unknown, embracing the peace that awaited her. And in her home, where she had spent a lifetime of memories, a quiet calm settled, as if she were leaving one last gift to those she loved, a lasting presence, a warm reminder of all she had been and all she had given.